Hi, today I have a message called Steadiness Provides. The first part is, instead of striving to analyze a character, you are safe to rest in peace with their being. Now, to me, this is a gradual process for me to notice while I'm analyzing a character, speaking it, or thinking it, either one. It's not like I've stopped. It's that I notice how it feels, and then experimentally we tune in past that. Their character's the part I made up. Their character isn't the real part. Let's look through to where they truly are and rest in peace with that. And then from sampling that experience, we do the analyzing of characters a lot. But as we do it, just in thought, or speaking it verbally, or writing it down, or however, as we do that, we notice how it feels. So experimentally, we go in to do this other thing. I'm going to look past their character. I'm going to acknowledge that they're the same piece I am. I'm going to rest in this peace with them, and I'm going to see what comes of that. So we do far more analyzing of characters than we do resting in peace with the peace they are as the peace we are. But we sample it, we sample it, we sample it, and from that sampling something emerges. It's an awareness more and more that they are what's past their characters. No matter how intensely we try to analyze their character and ours in comparison, or someone else's in comparison with that, there's more and more of an awareness of this shared presence that we are together. And even the analysis of character can come up very intensely when we're ready to go past the level where we've been relying on what we believe is character analysis. And we're ready to go deeper into another level of, no, really, I'm just here with you and all is well, and everything can come with that. And I don't come from that, and I don't know anything other than that. I don't know anything about your character. I might say I do or think I do, and thinking that this analysis gives me a defense that keeps me safe. And I may be very engaged in maintaining those defenses, but at the same time, we keep getting these opportunities to go a layer deeper and a layer deeper and a layer deeper. So on this seeming journey to let go of what was never here, we're the biggest hypocrites every time, because as we learn to stop relying on character analysis and the intensity or frequency of it, we're still doing it. All of us are still doing it. All of us still have defenses. All of us. And we see those defenses mirrored back to us and others. So we're all hypocrites all the time as we're moving through and out of our insistence that time and space is real. So we don't need to let that trip us up. It's more feeling the pain of the character analysis when it clearly doesn't serve us, helps us see that it never serves us, helps us go deeper and deeper into the willingness of I'm just going to rest here in peace with you and let everything come from that. You can allow the shared safety to come into the foreground by allowing Holy Spirit to use all symbols. So to the extent I think I know what symbols mean, objects, sights, sounds, textures, anything, I still think I know what those mean, and I can feel it. I can feel the emphasis, the certainty of that, but it's a false certainty. And underneath it is this vast, powerful, all-inclusive certainty that doesn't exclude anything or try to pin it into a separate category. And the more I sample this, I go in and I rest and I sample it, the more it has an opening to come into the daily experience. So if I can stop when I don't feel good and see what symbol I'm allowing ego to use, I have to slow down to do that. Then I can give it to Holy Spirit and say, whatever this is, use it on my behalf and on the behalf of all I call others. When I'm talking about it right now, it's very easy for me to see. It's very easy for me to do. When I'm out there in the world having an experience, it's not easy for me. Then maybe later in a quiet moment, it's easier for me to do. And then maybe later when I'm delivering a message and I feel like I'm in a very deep place, it's even easier for me to see. But the challenge, it's not a challenge or a failure. It's more of a noticing. As we practice in our quiet times, we notice that we remember more often in our less intense interactions to keep giving symbols to Spirit. And then in our more intense interactions, maybe we just keep forgetting because our defenses are up and up high and intense, right? And we hear and are aware of our defenses more than we're aware of what's here for everyone together. So it's like it seems to be these levels. When you're practicing alone in solitude, when you're in a less intense interaction, when you're in a more intense interaction. But that practicing bears fruit. It may seem to bear more fruit in the less intense interaction, but it does bear fruit. And what we can do with what we're perceiving as the past is noticing what symbols from the past seem significant to the ego, to the separate sense of self and its defenses, and take those symbols and give them to Spirit. And no, I don't know what to do with these. I'm going to give it to what I am instead of to ego, to what I'm not, to what no one is. And I'll let Spirit make whatever use it's going to make of those symbols. So more and more it's like, I don't know anything about it, but I am capable of judging how I feel. That's the one thing I can judge. So I'll use that power of judgment to turn within when I can, whenever I can, as often as I can. You can feel when you are allowing ego to make defensive use of symbols, and yes. And I've noticed it's all the time in a social interaction that feels more intense. There seems like more of a need in the marketplace, in the crowd, right? There seems more of a need to have the defenses up and maintain them, and interpret that also as taking care of others. If we conduct ourselves appropriately and nicely and kindly, then we're taking care of everyone else. But it's also, you can feel it's like a huge defense system of separate identities. And you can feel it, can really feel it when you're with a lot of people, or I can. The difference is, very, very palpable. And so these are places to practice. I'm making defensive use of symbols. And maybe after the experience or during, we can look at it and say, okay, I don't have to do this. I don't have to try to do all the juggling and the deciding and the defending. There's something here that connects all of us that can handle absolutely everything. So it's like this edge of defense where you think you wouldn't keep yourself safe if you let it go. You can always let that edge go. And then a little more and a little more and a little more. And where we find ourselves is totally safe and supported with everyone we call else, who is also totally safe and supported. So this together space of everyone being safe, supported, and guided is a very calm space. It may seem we're a very long way from being there in our second by second experience of everyone we call else in every situation. But that doesn't matter, because this can happen very quickly. Bringing our awareness online of the true qualities of everyone we call else, and allowing those to be demonstrated to us. No matter how real or movable that defensive surface seems, and as we project surfaces onto others, telling ourselves who they are and who they aren't, that's our own defense, saying this one is different from what I am. As we learn to let that go, then we begin to remember we were wrong about everything. And it's very good news to be wrong about everything and everyone, when what's shining behind these defensive surfaces of fear I'm projecting out is harmless. What's shining behind what I project onto you is harmless. And that's something we can rest in and remember today. And we do that by kind of digging into our defense and noticing how it feels. And it's not about forcing behavior to change. It's about looking at the thinking and understanding it's not helpful. When we've been using it as something that will give us a false sense of safety that we think is real safety. Okay. Steadiness is like a radio station to tune into. So behind the fear I've projected onto you is the steady thrumming of stability. You are the stability I am. But if I project fear onto you, I'm going to try to avoid you, or I'm going to try to approach you and take from you. Either one. Those are, I think, the two fear settings. I either approach you and take from you, or I try to avoid you. Maybe there's another way of describing it, but that's all I'm seeing at the moment. And in the ego's world, when the ego approaches someone, it's either going to say it's especially positive or especially negative. And if the ego thoughts seem to have decided that someone is especially wanted, then it's going to call that love. But ego can flicker that love on and off, on and off, on and off. I want you, I don't want you. I like you, I don't like you. And fortunately, everyone is love. And everyone loves everyone. And no one cannot be loving in our being as we actually are. That's already in place. So there isn't anyone who isn't love. There isn't anyone who isn't connected by love to everyone and everything. So no one has to struggle to love or to be loving, because that's what can't be changed. No matter what you do, you can't change the fact that all of the other guys, no matter what fear costumes I've projected out onto them, they're all loving, all of them. I can't change that about them. I can pretend that I changed it by projecting fear outward. And then I see something very unstable. So that really helps, because then you don't get confused about somebody should love me or somebody should be loving to someone else. That's the fear screen I projected out. That it seems another being doesn't love me, or it seems another being has an obligation to make a demonstration of being loving to another being, person. I'm seeing them as persons. I'm seeing them as the fear surface. That can get very confusing. But when we tune into who they are and rest there, instead of trying to change our behavior or their behavior, near or far, then we allow them to come forth as who they are. We give them permission. And we give ourselves permission to come forth as who we are and always have been. We allow that to express itself. That's a very different power than the power of forcing or compelling behavior. We're a lot more familiar with forcing and attempting to compel behavior in others, or guilt behavior out of others. We're a lot more familiar with that power than the power of, I'm going to let you be who you truly are, underneath the fear I projected on you. So it's very different, and it seems to take time, it seems to take practice, but the fruit it can bear can be very big, very fast. It can be very subtle, and it doesn't matter which it is. If it seems to be subtle fruit or really flashy fruit, it doesn't matter. The point is that our happiness comes from experiencing each other as we truly are, not as characters that we're projecting out from fear. And the tricky part about it is, when I experience you as a character I'm projecting out from fear, ego is going to tell me I love or hate that character, I like or dislike that character, and it's going to leave the possibility open for both. And so this sense of potential rejection is always there, the threat's always there. But when I remember, you love me fully, I love you fully, neither one of us can do anything about that. But you are not obligated to demonstrate a particular behavior that the ego would call loving. And I am not obligated to demonstrate a particular behavior that the ego would call loving from guilt. But as I sit with who we both are, and I allow who we both are to exude, express itself, be, demonstrate itself, then that bears fruit. Okay. Steadiness provides. So as we learn to tune into this steadiness, that becomes the provision. What provides for us emotionally, physically? This steadiness. We're used to thinking of it as it's my own autonomy, it's my own agency, or it's a dependence on someone else that provides for me emotionally, physically, in my perception. But if instead we learn to tune into the steadiness that's everywhere, that's nowhere is not, if it seems to not be there, it means I projected fear out onto it. It's funny how quickly I can forget it and believe that's not true, and pay so much more attention to the surface than the substance behind it. The substance behind it, which is the same, exact same in everyone and everything. A flower and a missile have the exact same substance, actual substance behind them. But my fear would make one look like a flower and another look like a missile. And so how do we get out of that crazy perception, where I decided it was a good idea to see harmfulness and helpfulness and competition with each other? What gets us out of that is a memory of how to focus on the steadiness behind them both. And then how will perception change to align with that? That's what we get to find out. And our ability to focus on that steadiness means that we have confidence and faith that everyone is provided for. From that, and the idea of scrambling and anxiety and guilt and struggle and strife goes away, because we have a faith that somehow it's going to make itself obvious. And there is a solution, perceptual solution, to every problem I perceive, but it doesn't come through what I would see as my own separate agency. It comes through this steadiness that all of us are together. And as I learn to turn toward that, I learn to allow it to operate, then everything's much easier. It does take discipline to learn to remember that it's there and emphasize its presence, and to have the patience to tune into it and stay tuned into it. Kind of a stubbornness. But it's here for all of us. And the beautiful thing about it is that it seems to solve the problem you call yours, it also seems to solve the problem you call theirs. It's one piece. Okay. Hope that was helpful. Thank you.